Tonight, the rule of law and whether or not it's under assault by not just the president, but the attorney general. We're going to show you how the rash of pardons just issued by this president is just the latest example. Also, day 2 of jury deliberations in the Harvey Weinstein sex crimes trial. One of Weinstein's attorneys just penned an op-ed in Newsweek telling jurors not to be swayed by the media. Is that allowed? Our legal panel will join to discuss also other interesting aspects of the case. And we will also talk a little politics, preview tonight's all-important Democratic debate where Michael Bloomberg will face his opponents for the first time. What can we expect from the former New York City mayor? We'll debate and discuss. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Well, President Trump making a stunning statement yesterday that, by the way, isn't even true. But the fact that he thinks it is, it tells us a lot about the president's state of mind. Take a listen.
I'm allowed to be totally involved. I'm actually, I guess, the chief law enforcement officer of the country.
Think about that. Of course, he was talking about the Roger Stone case and how his hand-picked attorney general intervened to help a Trump ally who was found guilty by a jury of a slew of federal crimes. Now, I want to remind you, Stone convicted of lying to Congress, also witness tampering, among other things. He actually threatened the life of a witness, and the feds, they even have the texts and emails to prove it. Now, Bill Barr's actions on the Stone case, they're just the latest example of the administration's assault on the rule of law. It caused the 4 prosecutors on that case to all step down. Barr's actions also causing a bipartisan group of more than 2,500 former Justice Department officials to call for the AG to resign. They wrote an open letter. Now I'll read a portion of it for you. A person should not be given special treatment, it says, in a criminal prosecution because they're a close political ally of the president. Governments that use the enormous power of law enforcement to their punishment of enemies and reward their allies are not constitutional republics. They are autocracies. The Stone case, just the latest example of Barr's politicization of the DOJ. Barr has reportedly taken control of cases of personal interest to Trump. He also opened up a pipeline so that Rudy Giuliani can provide the findings from his so-called investigation in Ukraine. Barr also distorted the findings of the Mueller report, as you know, to make Trump come out looking a whole lot better than what was on the pages in black and white. He's also using the DOJ to dig into the people who investigated as part of the Mueller probe. You heard me right, he's investigating the investigators. And I'm only giving you folks here just the highlights of a very long list, or call them lowlights. But even Bill Barr appears to have a line, or at least attempts to portray one on TV when it comes to Donald Trump. The president's tweetings apparently cross that, to me, amorphous line.
To have public statements and tweets made about the department, about our people in the department, our men and women here, about cases pending in the department, and about judges before whom we have cases, make it impossible for me to do my job. I cannot do my job here at the department with a constant background commentary that undercuts me.
My translation, you reach your own. He'll do the president's bidding. He just doesn't want the president to be basically communicating it for the world to see on his Twitter account. Again, my take. Now, regardless of what you believe the motivations of Barr were, his comments in a sit-down interview with ABC did nothing to deter the president. Take a listen to what Trump had to say yesterday after being asked directly about his attorney general saying he can't do his job with all the tweeting.
I do make his job harder. I do agree with that. I think that's true. Social media for me has been very important because it gives me a voice. Because I don't get that voice in the press, in the media. I don't get that voice. So I'm allowed to have a voice.
In addition, Trump proceeded to continue tweeting about the Stone case just hours after Barr made those comments. Now, multiple reports are saying that Barr is considering quitting over Trump's tweeting habit, but for what it's worth, the DOJ spokesman says Barr has no plans to resign. Again, my take, don't hold your breath. The president, however, keeps on tweeting and retweeting things about active cases and the Justice Department itself. Just today, Trump retweeting a posting saying it's time to clean house at the DOJ. What more would Barr be waiting to hear? The president continues to throw legal norms and precedents right out the window. A minute ago, You just heard him say he considers himself the top law enforcement officer in the country, and he acts like he really believes it. These are just a few of the examples. He defied and ignored subpoenas. He diverted billions of dollars of Pentagon funds for his border wall. He intervened to help accused and convicted war criminals. He ordered an airstrike on an Iranian general without even consulting Congress. He flat out said the Constitution gives him the right to do whatever he wants.
I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president.
Including, he said, even shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. That's our president. Now, the latest example of Trump using his powers are the pardons he issued just yesterday. And for details on that, I want to bring in a senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. We've had pardons before by presidents. Almost always there's a controversial element to them. But the volume of them and the commonalities of them and the overt vengeance attached to them, this was not a pursuit for justice or to right wrongs. These are people who either paid fealty to him, Andrew, or people who committed the kind of crimes here that he thinks, don't deserve punishment, like fraud, like perjury, etc. And again, the common enemy, the government that he leads.
And political corruption, one of them also, Rich. And the president, clearly there's a degree of how well you know Trump or have access to him that played a role in all of this. President Trump used his powers to commute or pardon 11 white-collar criminals yesterday, many of whom have connections to the president or his friends and whose crimes have connections to political corruption. Like mall magnate and former 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo, who failed to report a bribe offer he got from a then-governor of Louisiana who corruptly sold casino licenses. DeBartolo is a Republican donor, and he hosted a pre-inauguration party to honor Michael Cohen. Then there's 1980s junk bond king Michael Milken, who's become a philanthropist in the years since he left prison. A lot of Trump friends pushed for Milken's pardon, including Rudy Giuliani, Mitch McConnell, Elaine Chao, and Sheldon Adelson. The best-known pardon recipient, nationally anyway, is former Democratic governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, who was caught essentially trying to sell Barack Obama's vacant Senate seat in 2009, almost as though he had said to the candidates for the seat, "I would like you to do me a favor, though." Here's what he actually said.
I've got this thing, and it's golden, and I'm just not giving it up for nothing.
But Blago was also convicted of shaking down a Chicago children's hospital. The governor demanded a $50,000 contribution from the hospital's CEO in exchange for state funding to help sick kids, a quid pro quo, if you will. Plus, Blagojevich's wife made frequent appearances on, you guessed it, Fox News, to lobby for her husband's pardon. And President Trump was watching.
I watched his wife on television. I don't know him very well. I met him a couple of times. He was on for a short while of The Apprentice years ago.
Television, especially Fox News, appears to have played a big role in Trump's pardons. Not only did he see Patty Blagojevich on Fox, as well as appeals from others backing the people he pardoned, but Fox's Pete Hegseth shared an attorney with and was a big on-air booster for another of the people who Trump pardoned, Bernie Kerik, the former New York City police chief under Rudy Giuliani. Kerik had been nominated for Homeland Security Secretary by George W. Bush in 2004 when his world caved in. He first said he had hired an undocumented nanny, but investigations eventually led to guilty pleas on 8 federal counts. One other Kerik note, after 9/11, he asked a local developer to donate an apartment near Ground Zero for weary rescue workers to use. A few months later, Kerik himself took over the rent so he could use the apartment to meet up with book publisher Judith Regan, with whom he was having an extramarital affair. Kerik knows Trump, and the two have had lots of connections, who pushed for Kerik's pardon, and supporters of another person on the list gave more than $200,000 to the Trump Victory Fund. But despite all that, Donald Trump is all about fighting corruption, not pardoning it. Just ask some of the people who helped essentially pardon Trump.
There is a corruption issue there, and of course the president honed in on that.
The president raised the issue of corruption.
He's talked about corruption all over the world.
And now he's signing pardons about it. One final note, Trump remains on his post-impeachment revenge tour, and some of these pardons may be connected to it. The man who prosecuted Rod Blagojevich is Patrick Fitzgerald. If the name sounds familiar, he was on the legal team of his friend, James Comey. Fitzgerald also prosecuted Stuart Libby and Conrad Black, both of whom were also pardoned or had their sentences commuted by Trump. And although he got Fitzgerald's name wrong, Fitzgerald was definitely on Trump's mind when the pardons were announced yesterday.
It was a prosecution by the same people, Comey, Fitzpatrick, the same group.
Rich?
Anybody want to bet me? I mean, this sounds so obscenely irrational, but I will take bets with anyone in the audience or you, Andrew, that Michael Milken, DeBartolo, at least 3 or 4 of the other ones, are going to write checks to Trump's campaign. Trump will literally take money for pardons. I will take that to the bank. It's inconceivable in my lifetime with any other elected official that they'd be so transparently transactional, but I think they do it here.
Since I don't think I can get out of this bet with a pardon, I'm not betting you.
Amazing. And by the way, as Andrew said, remember what Trump campaigned on. He was going to drain the swamp. All these guys, all convicted for basically political corruption or corruption, he's rewarding with commutations or pardons, and they'll reward him with contributions. Amazing. Andrew, you can't make this up. Thank you. All right, when we come back, I'm going to bring in our legal panel, take a look at the state of things in this country as the president and Bill Barr continue to politicize the rule of law.